Over the weekend, we saw a lifelong Democrat and a former representative, Tulsi Gabbard, place her support with former President Trump, which now marks the second mainstream endorsement within the same week. As you already know, RFK endorsed Trump earlier in the week and is removing himself from the swing state ballots. Now, all that it takes is the states not cooperating to this takedown request, but that wouldn't happen, right? About that. We have a situation happening in Michigan and we have a situation happening in Wisconsin. Both of these states are now saying that they will not remove RFK Jr.'s name from the ballot. He's dropped out of the race. Why would you keep a man that has dropped out of the race on the ballot? That's because of the fact that they know that if he takes 1 to 2%, that could be the factor, the leading factor in these two states. So they want RFK Jr. to take the vote from the Republicans. But the thing is, RFK Jr. should spend, most of his money on electing Trump, but he should tell people, listen, don't vote for me, vote for Donald Trump, vote for former President Trump. I have dropped out of the race. And he needs to sue these states into oblivion because it just does not make any sense. Why would you keep, yeah, of course, I know exactly what you're trying to do. They're trying to take the votes away from Trump. But the thing is, for the honesty standard here, we can't sit here and say that we're following the laws and the protocols correctly when we really are not, at all. Independent RFK Jr.'s name must remain on the ballot on Michigan's general election, despite his push to remove it from ballots in the battleground states, according to Michigan Democrat Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. After endorsing Trump last week, Kennedy said that he would remain on the ballot in red and blue states because if he removes himself from 10 battleground states, that will potentially act as a spoiler. Axios reported on Tuesday that Michigan's Secretary of State Benson's office said in a statement, minor party candidates cannot withdraw, so his name will remain on the ballot in November's election. But that doesn't even make any sense. He's requesting for his name to be removed. So remove the name. You need to do this before September because you're going to start printing the ballots. Do this before you printed any ballots. It just doesn't make any sense here. In April, Kennedy qualified for Michigan's general election ballot through the Natural Law Party, which has already filed the necessary paperwork to have its candidate on the ballot. Charlie Hardman, senior press secretary for the Michigan Secretary of State, said that the Natural Law Party held their convention to select electors for RFK Jr. They cannot meet at this point to select new electors since it's past the primary. That doesn't even make any sense. So now we're going to sit here and pretend as if we can't have somebody removed from the ballot that has dropped out of the race just because it's quote unquote after the primary. But just because it's after the primary, it doesn't mean that you can't drop out of the race. It doesn't mean that you can change your mind. Anything can happen. So what? You're just stuck on the ballot now? What if you pass away? You're just stuck on the ballot? Nope, he got all of the votes. He's gonna still be on the ballot. There was a person that was still on the ballot that actually got arrested, and he was the former mayor of Fall River, which is a small town or a small city in Massachusetts. And what had happened was he actually got arrested for stealing and stuff like that, and people still voted for him. He still won. So then everybody was like, no, he's arrested. He can't be mayor. So then they had to retry the election again. It's just so stupid. People are just so dumb. These are the kinds of people that should not be voting in our elections because they just do not even care. They're like, Democrat, Republican. They'll vote by name and party only. That's it. Michigan has played a crucial role in the past two presidential elections, swinging from Trump in 2016 to Joe Biden in 2020. Vice President Kamala Harris currently leads in Michigan polls by 2 points, according to Real Clear Politics average. 6 recent polls cited that the Washington Post showed Harris performing better than Trump nationally if Kennedy remained on the ballot. Before Kennedy has even made it to the Michigan ballot, the Democratic Party launched a billboard campaign in Grand Rapids, claiming that Kennedy was bankrolled by the same extreme MAGA donor as Donald Trump. The Democrat-turned-independent candidate blasted the Democratic Party in a speech last week when he announced that he was suspending his campaign and backing Trump. Quote, in the name of saving democracy, the Democratic Party set itself to dismantling it, lacking confidence in its candidate, that its candidate could win in a fair election at the voting booth. The DNC waged consensual legal warfare against both Donald Trump and myself, and said, each time our volunteers turned in those towering boxes of signatures needed to get on the ballot, the DNC dragged us to court, state after state, attempting to ease their work and subvent the work of the voters who had signed those petitions. Yeah, of course, because it's whoever they want to be on the ballot, and they do not want you to be on the ballot if they do not like you. because if you have a possibility of winning, then they're like, no, get out of here. We don't want you on the ballot. That's it. And it's just even more sad because the same exact situation is happening in now another state, Wisconsin. Wisconsin electors said the same exact thing. Days after RFK Jr. dropped out, Kennedy sent a letter to the WEC on Friday requesting that his name will be removed from the ballot. By the way, these two articles are from the Daily Wire, but the commission, which is made up from the 3 Democrats and 3 Republicans, voted 5-1 on Tuesday to approve Kennedy and 2 other candidates' names for the ballot. WKOW reported a motion to remove Kennedy from the ballot after the initial vote failed in a 3-3 split. Why? Okay. I mean, these are the only 3 reasonable people that are actually saying, yeah, remove him from the ballot. He's dropped out. Let him. But of course, the other 3 has their political ideology ahead of them and is too far up their own rear to actually realize what they're actually doing. What are you doing here? He's dropped out of the race. Let him drop out. Let him drop out of the race. But of course, they're not going to do that because that only gives Trump a better chance of winning. So moving on to the next article, we actually have a Delta plane wheel actually exploding at an Atlanta airport and killing 2 people. So a Delta employee and a contractor at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport were killed, and a 3rd person was seriously injured on Tuesday morning when a plane tire exploded. Channel 2 Action News reported. This is from the Daily Wire. Sources told the local news outlet that workers that were working on a Delta plane tire in a maintenance area at the airport when it exploded and sent a piece of material flying like a missile. Delta Airlines confirmed that 2 people were killed in the incident and another person remains injured. It remains unclear what caused the plane's tire to explode. The 2 victims that have been identified as a 48-year-old and a 37-year-old. The Delta family is heartbroken by the loss of the 2 members, says Delta, in the injury from another following an incident this morning at the Atlanta Technical Operations Maintenance Facility, the TOC-3. We have extended our full support to the family members and colleagues during this incredibly difficult time, the airline said in a statement. The Delta family is grateful for the quick action of its first responders and medical teams on site. We are working with local authorities and conducting a full investigation to determine what actually happened. And yeah, they should, because I want to know what plane this was, because they're not even saying which plane this actually was from. Like, was it another Boeing? There's no update on the condition. Channel 2 Action News reported that the flight information showed that the plane has landed in Atlanta from Las Vegas on Sunday night. Airport officials confirmed that the deadly incident had not affected any other flights. Considered one of the busiest in the world is the Atlanta airport. Let me see here. It doesn't say. It doesn't actually say that what brand the plane actually is. I mean, if I were a betting man, which I'm not, I would put my money on it being a Boeing, because Boeing has just been failing time after time after time and after time because of the people stuck in space, because of the fact that they do not want to actually take a Boeing flight back down. So of course, this is according to NBC News here. NASA astronauts are actually stuck in space and will not return on a Boeing capsule because they do not even trust Boeing so little. So instead, NASA will call SpaceX to bring home the 2 astronauts who have been stuck into the International Space Station since early June after the Boeing spacecraft ran into several problems mid-flight. So of course, why would you go into a flight that has several problems? I do not blame these people whatsoever. The decision for the astronauts, Butch Waltmore and Sonny Williams, to hitch a ride back to Earth on a SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule, and I would completely trust SpaceX more than that, rather than on the Boeing Starliner spacecraft that they rode into orbit, puts to rest months of speculation and tension within the space agency over how and when the 2 crew members could safely return. The mission was planned to last about 8 days, and now will fully last about 8 months by the end of it. Spaceflight is risky. Okay, and then now the NASA administrator, Bill Nelson, is now sitting here saying, oh, spaceflight is risky and these people signed up for it and they know exactly what they're going to encounter and blah, 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 blah. Shut up. Okay, listen. Nobody thinks that you're going to spend 8 months in space when you are decided to spend 8 days in space. 8 days and 8 months are completely different things. And if you do not trust Boeing because of what they are going through right now, then NASA, you have the ultimate authority to go and overlook these flights and overlook these planes and the safety standards that they are going through. But instead, you failed at your job Boeing failed at their job, and now we have people stuck in the International Space Station because of it. It's not just because space flight is risky, folks, and you never know what's going to happen and blah, blah, shut up. Because we do not care about what you have to say. If you're going to sit here and make excuses and say, space flight is risky and, it's fine. No, there's 2 people stuck in freaking space here, guys. Can we not pay attention to exactly what's going on? Like, are we going to just ignore the fact that the Starliner program had more than $1.5 billion over budget in years, and they are actually years behind schedule. So where are they getting all this money from? The taxpayer are paying Boeing to create these spacecrafts that then ultimately fail and leave our American people in our International Space Station for months and months and months and months and months at a time. Oh, I can't. NASA officials gathered on Saturday at the agency's Johnson Space Center in Houston to conduct a formal review based on the results of the tests done in orbit on the ground. Okay, so how about we just stop contracting with Boeing? I mean, that's an easy solution. Of course, when we sit here and we examine exactly what's going on, well, of course, it's Boeing. Boeing is the the planes that keep doing their same exact stuff every single time. We had 2 planes crash out of the sky because of malfunctioning. We had doors fly off of planes mid-flight. We had so many situations happen, and then this is the final straw for a lot of people. Like, when you have astronauts that don't even want to fly a flight back home and they would rather wait months for a SpaceX flight, then that's a big problem. It really is. It's a huge problem. And it's even worse because DEI was at the forefront of their mistake. And it's hilarious because Disney is now making the same exact mistake here. So Disney's not learning their lesson and is continuing down the path of DEI. So they're now seeking a DEI director, which probably the last one got fired or quit, and they're offering 4 times the national average. So Disney is hiring a diversity, equity, and inclusion director that could earn up to 4 times the natural average income, pushing a far left agenda. The job posting from the Walt Disney Company for a DEI director role advises a minimum salary of $197,000 and a maximum salary of $241,000. The average American salary in 2024 is $59,000 annually. We're seeking a director of strategic external engagement, enterprise DEI, to lead our efforts to building strategic relationships with external stakeholders, driving community engagement, and generating valuable insights to support our diversity, equity, and inclusion objectives. The job description reads, it's on-site, full-time, it's a director. Of course, when you look at what Disney has gone through, they obviously had not gone through that enough. I was thinking about, maybe Disney has changed their mind. No, they didn't. They really didn't. And they keep making the same exact horrible movies that nobody wants to see. It's just sad. It really is. Moving on to the next article here, we have moving to the Middle East. The IDF has just done it again. Rescues another hostage from Hamas. So, of course, a lot of people are sitting here saying, well, why is the war still going on, blah, blah, blah. There's still hostages, first of all. And we can see another hostage was just saved. So, today, the IDF and the ISA rescued the hostage Quad Farman Al-Liskdi, age 52, from Rahat, who was abducted by Hamas terrorist organization and taken into Gaza on October 7th. The IDF announced on X he is in stable medical condition and is being transferred for the medical checks at the hospital. His family has been updated with the details, and the IDF is occupying him. Israeli security forces will continue to operate with all means necessary to bring home the hostages. Of course, because they definitely should, because these hostages are not just hostages. They're actually being taken advantage of. They're being sexually abused. It's just disgusting. Read these stories from the people that come out of Gaza after being held hostage. They're not being held hostage in a respectable way. Like, oh, okay, you could never hold the hostage respectable. But I'm saying, if you were to hold a hostage, you would just hold a hostage right there in the chair, feed them, do the bare minimum, I guess. But for what they're doing, what they do is they say, okay, go take a shower. They come in with a man with a gun, and then they go and do weird things to the woman inside of the shower. It's just disgusting. It really is. This war needs to end. And by end, I mean the hostages must be released to their original families, and Hamas cannot continue the terror that they did on October 7th ever again. That's what I mean by end. And Trump, speaking of Trump, he knows exactly how to end this war, and he will get it done. He really will, because 4 years, 0 wars. You cannot argue with that. A lot of people are like, oh, well, that's a coincidence. I don't really care. 4 years, 0 wars. How many wars do we have now? 3, 4? Within 3 years. How about if we look at 4 years, 0 wars? Okay, if it even took 4 more years to get to the point that we are, and maybe it did pause everything around the globe for 4 years. Okay, 4 years, 0 wars. I mean, it still doesn't make sure that that's not true. It is true. Everybody knows it. Former President Trump said on Tuesday that the Justice Department was engaging in election interference after special counsel Jack Smith filed a superseding indictment against the former president. Smith's indictment, which comes after the Supreme Court ruled that presidents have broad immunity from the prosecution, accuses Trump of 2 felony counts of obstructing an official proceeding, 1 felony account for a conspiracy to defraud the United States, and 1 felony count of conspiracy against rights, which does not make any sense. They just keep on trying to put him in jail. Just give up already. In a post on X, Trump said that the revised indictment amounted to election interference because mail-in ballots were about to be cast in North Carolina. It's the DOJ policy that the Department of Justice should not take any action that will influence an election within 60 days of that election, but they have done such action. He said, voting starts on September 6th. Therefore, the DOJ has violated its own policy. Of course, because it rules for thee and not for me. Election interference. All of these Comrade Kamala/Biden hoaxes should be immediately dismissed. Of course. I mean, it doesn't hold any water, and everybody knows it. That's exactly why they want to prosecute Trump in left-leaning areas, because they know that if they have a jury that is all left-leaning, then of course they're going to get the charge on Trump. But if they have a jury that is in a really red state, in a really red area in Texas, then yeah, of course, it's not going to happen. Everybody's going to say, no, we're not going to lock him up. We're good with that. So with that being said, we're going to end off this episode here. We're a little bit short on time. I wish I could do a full episode because I do love breaking all these down, especially during this time, because every single day there's more information. For some reason, I log in and I'm like, okay, what are we going to talk about in the show? And I'm like, boom, we have a whole entire thing so long that we could sit here for 2 hours a day doing this show. So with that being said, we have some big things coming up. We have a deep dive on the Department of Education, because it has failed us time and time again. So that's going to be coming out any week now. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. And I hope they have a great rest of your day. Bye.